What's up, everyone? Welcome to Down Once More Pod. This is a special Wicked themed mini episode. I had the opportunity to see Wicked live on their national tour last night, so I wanted to hop on here and give some of my thoughts, quick breakdown, and also break down some of the exciting Wicked movie news that we got this week, courtesy of John M. Chu, the director. So I'm going to start out with the national tour. Now, this was my first time seeing Wicked live. I've listened to the soundtrack numerous times, loved it. Finally got the opportunity to see it live, and it did not disappoint. If you have the opportunity to see this, highly recommend it. The entire cast was fantastic. The staging, the sets, the choreography, everything was bigger and grander than I was expecting. And usually, as we've discussed in some of these other episodes, I kind of prefer the smaller scale musicals, kind of the more compact stories. And I feel like we get a very deeply personal story in Wicked still, even though we have these huge sets that are portraying the Emerald City, the College of Shiz, Munchkin Land, all of these vistas that we get to visit in the play and all the supporting cast that we get. It still feels like a very deeply personal story in the journey of Elphaba and Glinda. Before I go any further, I just want to give a really quick spoiler alert. I'm going to be discussing some details about the play, the book, and some potential theories for the movie. So this could potentially be some spoilers for you. If you don't want to know anything about the play, turn it off now. I'm not going to do a whole story breakdown. If you're not familiar with Wicked, it is kind of a reimagining of the story of the Wicked Witch of the West from The Wizard of Oz, and how she's not really wicked at all. She's just misunderstood, and she always had good intentions. We get lots of things from she creates the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion by accident, all based off of good intentions. We get this character arc of her where she sees everyone hates her, she's misunderstood, or not necessarily hates her, but they judge her because she looks different. She's green. And one thing about Wicked, the musical, is it is a very kind of political and story at its heart. And a lot of that comes from the original novel, which I'll get to in a little bit here. But ultimately, we get this journey of Elphaba finally making friends with Glinda, who Galinda tormented her at first. She sees the wizard for what he truly is, a fraud. And ultimately her father, it's revealed at the end, which I'm going to put a note at the beginning, but heavy spoiler alert for this whole thing. If you don't want to be spoiled, turn it off. Turn it off a minute ago. So we kind of get this character arc. Now, for the tour, one thing I wasn't quite expecting was how much I loved this portrayal of Glinda. This actress, Jennifer Newberry, she absolutely knocked it out of the park. Kristen Chenoweth originated the role on Broadway, and if you're familiar with her, she's a very bubbly, high-pitched, and she's a lot. This actress managed to bring that energy and just inject another layer, I felt, of humor into it, and just blew me away. I think that was the most surprising performance for me. I think kind of from Idina Menzel's performance, it sets the bar so high for Elphaba. Everyone's expecting that. And I felt like this actress, I'll check her name so I'm not saying it wrong, Lisa de Guzman, she absolutely crushed it too. She did some different runs in areas that differentiated her performance, made it her own, while still brought the power and the intensity to the role. Overall, this was a little more lighthearted than I was expecting. I was sitting next to a couple who they've had Broadway season tickets at this musical at the theater, the Orpheum, for forever. They said this was their second time seeing Wicked. They said this production and this take on it was a lot more lighthearted than the first time they saw it, which I was kind of surprised to hear. The book is very dark, but from the musical, most of the songs are pretty upbeat. You have the big Emerald City number, One Short Day, that's just very exciting. You're seeing all these different things. You're seeing everything green. You're seeing a performance of a musical within the musical a little bit. That is just alluded to. It's very short. You just have these big people that look like Tweedledee and Tweedledum from Alice in Wonderland dancing around there in these crazy suits. And it's just entertaining, brings a smile to your face. You have the powerful melody. You got Defying Gravity. You have For Good. They sing at the end, kind of closing out Glinda and Elphaba's arc. It was just overall a fantastic production. That actor who played Fiero as well, looking him up, excuse me, looking at my notes. I'm going to look at notes some through this, so bear with me. Fiero was Jordan Litz. He embodied the character so well. He had the look that you kind of expect, the traditional Fiero look, the kind of brashness, that those mannerisms. He did awesome, sounded fantastic to the point where any of these people really, if they were cast in a film version of it or they filmed this version of it on stage, I would not be disappointed at all or feel like I was gypped from the Idina Menzel, Kristen Chenoweth performance. In my opinion, I thought the energy everyone brought was fantastic. They have at the top of the stage, they have this dragon, which if you follow us on Instagram, I posted a picture of the stage. It might be inserted in here. Only thing is, I just put it on the story. I didn't save it, so we'll see if that's still available. But it was awesome. Everything on this set design, it was probably the biggest set design I've seen in performance. Now, as we've discussed before, I don't have a ton of musical theater experience of what I've been to. I have seen Rent. I have seen Phantom of the Opera, which that was the only other one that kind of comes close to this. I've seen Wicked now, and I've seen Hamilton, which Hamilton has a very kind of stripped down set, but it's perfect for that production. And I felt like the set for Wicked, everything was perfect. The only small complaint I had, and it could be it was only their second night of the show, so it could be still working things out. We were on the floor in the orchestra, and with the speakers they had from the orchestra blasting the sound, sometimes the performers' voices got a little bit lost in it. They were singing so powerfully and you could tell, but they just had those speakers cranked up so loud for some of the music. I didn't have any problems hearing anything, but that was my only minor nitpicky complaint on it. Also, the flying monkeys in the production are a thing of nightmares. They look like they're wearing muscle, like body suits, like of people who had their flesh stripped off them, and these creepy ass masks with things coming out of them. So that was kind of scary, but fantastic. Now I'm gonna leave it at that for the production. My little mini review. Just could not recommend it enough. I would give this production an 8 out of 10. I think, like I said, there were some of the little technical details that knock a couple points off, but 8 out of 10, awesome. If you have the opportunity, definitely go see it. There's some musicals that, I mean, any musical is going to be better live. Don't get me wrong there, but there's some that you just feel like you're transported there with how it's set up, and this was one of those. Definitely go see it. Now, this week we got an announcement from John M. Chu via his Twitter. Now, John M. Chu, he's most well known for, he was the director of Crazy Rich Asians. He also directed 2021's In the Heights, the Lin-Manuel Miranda musical. I thought he did a fantastic job. We haven't talked about that musical on the pod yet. I thought he did a fantastic job directing that. And so I'm going to choose, give him the benefit of the doubt, and trust his vision for Wicked moving forward. Wicked has been talked about and in production as a movie for so fucking long. They have been talking about this. I feel like I've been hearing about it the last 4 or 5 years that it's being made. It's moving forward at, I want to say it's Warner Brothers, but now I don't even remember. But there's just so much going on with it. And then we finally got our first casting announcements a few months ago. We got Cynthia Erivo playing Elphaba and Ariana Grande playing Glinda, which at first I was a little, they seemed odd choices to me, mainly Ariana Grande. Cynthia Erivo has a fantastic voice. She's got the pipes for this. She has the acting chops. She has a lot of experience. She is going to crush Elphaba. I'm really excited to see her portrayal. Ariana Grande just seemed like she's a very bubbly person. She has a very distinct look. And it's not what I picture when I think of Glinda, just from what we've seen traditionally. I think she's going to be awesome in this role, and I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt as well. Um, and I hope everyone else does. This is one, go wait and see and go from there. Now, both of these actresses, I found this very interesting, have sang songs from Wicked before in different, not productions, but Cynthia Erivo did it at a Wicked in Mexico, I believe. She sang I Couldn't Be Happier, which is a Glinda song. And Ariana Grande on the Wicked 15th anniversary concert sang, oh, now I lost my notes, The Wizard and I. So they have both sang songs from Wicked that is available for you to view on YouTube. They both crushed them. However, they're reversed roles. So I'm excited to see what they do with those roles. Those are the only casting announcements we have so far. Nothing on Fiero or any Nessa Rose, Bach, any of those other kind of side characters, Memorable, the Wizard. And the thing is, I think that's okay for now. They announced the big announcement, I kind of allude to it. John M. Chu said that when they were looking at this, he saw they weren't going to be able to do it in just one movie without butchering, basically, the story of Wicked. That they're going to have to do lots of changes, cut things. He didn't want to cut songs. He didn't want to cut characters' story arcs. And so he announced they're splitting it into 2 movies now. That the first one's not coming out till December of 2024. And then the second part's coming out December 2025. I'm excited because it means we're getting more of Wicked. And like I said, I'm going to give John M. Chu the benefit of the doubt. It also makes me extremely nervous. The entire Broadway play is about 2.5 hours, 2 hours, 45 minutes. And that's including a 15-minute intermission in there. So even if you do an almost shot by shot remake of that, you're coming in at under 3 hours. Now, I get a 3-hour movie can be daunting, especially on a musical, but it has been done before. There's a precedent for it. So he's mentioned adding new songs. Steven Schwartz is helping with the adaptation, which he was the original writer and worked on the original play and the adaptation from the book that it's very loosely based on. And so that gives me a little bit of hope as well. It shows me that there's people that are very connected to the source material, know what they're doing, and care about it. So I wouldn't think they'd want to see it butchered. Steven Schwartz had talked about including songs that were cut from the original production as well. I get so nervous that they're just going to throw too much filler in things or try to make storylines happen that don't need to happen. Now, I have some thoughts of some things they could expand upon in the movie that could make this really interesting and really capitalize on the 2 movies without making it brutal. And so I'll be interested to see how they do it. I'll discuss those in a minute. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think of this, and there's a nerdy reference, shout out my fellow nerds, is the Hobbit movies. Lord of the Rings, great film adaptations of the books. They did long-ass movies, but 1 movie for each book. Then, when they finally made the Hobbit movie, which is prequel to Lord of the Rings, for those of you who don't know and aren't as nerdy as me, the Hobbit book was designed for kids. It is about a third to half as long as each of the individual Lord of the Rings books. They split this book into 3 movies and threw in so many different storylines, some loosely pulled from other of the author's works, others just completely fabricated for these movies. It just seemed like a cash grab. That's what I'm so nervous about with this Wicked, that if they don't do it right, it is going to just seem like a cash grab. Or if you're giving us 2 hour-and-a-half movies, fuck you, just own up to a 3-hour movie. Take the gamble. I think this will do well. I think people are excited to see it. I think it has enough fantasy elements. I think it has enough kind of draw to people, even who aren't big musical fans, that will get them in the door. And it sounds like they're committed to it, so they'll do the second movie regardless. I don't think we have to worry about them dropping off where the story leaves off. In the play, the first movie ends with the Defying Gravity sequence, which is arguably, or not even arguably, is the biggest number in the show. It's the one that everyone knows and that people go there to see. So you're going to end that on a high note, which is also kind of a dark note, and then lead into the second half, which the second half of the play is way darker than the first half. So these movies, it's going to be really interesting how they keep the tone interesting, fresh, and really invigorate that plot in the second half as well. Now, some of my thoughts on a few things. One, for casting for Fiyero, because he's really the third lead. I would personally love to see Jeremy Jordan in this. He might be a little old and not quite have the look. He is so talented. He has one of my favorite voices to listen to for musicals from him. He's fantastic in the last 5 years with Anna Kendrick. He was great in Newsies, the recorded Broadway version, and he's also done some other just Broadway shows he's done. He did the initial workshop of Heathers the Musical, which I love. He did a cast recording for In the Light of Faustian Tale, which is a play that, as far as I know, hasn't actually gone into live production yet. It came together over COVID and they did a cast recording. Love it. It's my favorite one right now. He just has a great voice. I think another kind of younger choice that he's been getting a lot more kind of press recently, a lot more traction, is Jordan Fisher. He's played Evan Hansen on Broadway. He was in the Disney movie Turning Red as one of the characters in the boy band. I just watched it, Turning Red, but I do not remember the name of the boy band, but he was in that. He has a fantastic voice. He has some swag. He could pull off this role as well. There is also Isaac Powell. He performed on the Wicked 15th anniversary concert. He performed Dancing Through Life on that, and he absolutely crushed it. So I'm also fine with them getting a complete unknown here. This is something that's going to have a draw anyways. Let's build some new stars. We don't need to throw a well-known person in this role. I mean, we saw that with West Side Story when they pulled in Ansel Elgort to play Tony, and it just nothing. He wasn't awful, but he didn't have that oomph. He didn't stand out in it. He's very forgettable. So I'd kind of like to see him take a chance here a little bit with Fiyero and any of these other characters. Now, as for where plot goes, some things I think they could expand upon pretty easily that could build some into the runtime and character development. One, the relationship with Bach and Nessa Rose, Elphaba's sister. I think not really much is dove into on that front in the musical. You just get, I'm asking her out because Glinda wants me to and to look good to her. Then all of a sudden, I'm basically Nessa Rose's prisoner. I think that could be an interesting dynamic if we see kind of Nessa Rose's turn to the Wicked Witch of the East. We could also see more. They could spend some more time on either both Elphaba and Glinda's childhood. They could pull some stuff in there. Elphaba's childhood is very kind of heavily featured in the book as well, which I'm going to talk about book stuff here in a minute. They could do some more stuff with the wizard. The wizard's thrown in there. He has a couple numbers, which, I mean, I will admit they're my least favorite numbers in the play. But I think there's opportunity there to do more with that character and give him some more development in this and kind of flesh out his bad guy without wanting to or needing to be a bad guy role there. And also the Clock of the Time Dragon. This is something that is a very central focus in the book and kind of kicks everything off and constantly referenced. And they reference it multiple times in the play, but they never say what it is. Now, when I talk about what it is, when I talk about the book, I don't know a good way for them to pull this into the movie. But if you're going to talk about it in the fucking musical, give some explanation on what it is. Otherwise, they just mention the clock ticking or per the clock and blah, blah, blah. Spend some more time on that. Now, I'm going to go into the book. I listened to the audiobook of this a few years ago, and when I finished it, I'm like, this is not what I was expecting at all. I'd heard it was very different, was not expecting this different. And I started it again this past day. These are some notes I had just from the first hour of the book. First off, this book starts out in the prologue with the Tin Woodman and the Cowardly Lion discussing rumors about the witch and how they believe and they've heard that she is hermaphroditic and was castrated. That's how this fucking book opens up. I'd like to steer clear of all that shit in the movie, if we could. That's a very dark way to open this very lighthearted musical, and I am so glad that the musical and the book are two very different entities. Now, I've seen lots of people who prefer the book. It has so much more character development. That was another one of my only complaints about the play. Things seem to happen very bam, 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 especially in the second half of the play, that I think there can be more thrown in there between when Dorothy gets to Oz and the end. Like, Dorothy's never shown in the play. You see a silhouette of her at the end. That's it. They could add some more with that character, too, for the movie to throw some more time in there. So, yeah, it's just, that's the tone they start the book off with. Talking about all these rumors about Elphaba, how she's hermaphroditic. She was born with man's parts and then castrated. Maybe she is a man, and all of these things that she does, and she's like overhearing this and just in shock. In the book, water actually does hurt her, as opposed to the musical. They just make it up to throw them off. In the book, Nessa Rose, her sister, instead of not being able to walk, she can walk. She has no arms, and she is pink. In the book, Elphaba's parents are in a throuple for a while with like a traveling salesperson. It is just like, it's insane. The beginning of this book, and this book in general, I'm not gonna give way too much away in case you want to read it, but it's nuts. Like, Fiyero, he's covered in blue diamond tattoos. Fiero's married before he gets to Shiz, and he's just friends with these people at the end until him and Elphaba end up having an affair. And then they have a kid, and then Fiyero is actually murdered. And in Elphaba's delusion, she convinces herself that the Scarecrow is Fiyero. It's not actually Fiyero. They still have, the wizard is still her father. Dr. Dillamond is murdered at Shiz, and they find him his throat slit. Elphaba's dad, he's a minister, not a mayor. There is a scene about halfway through where Bach, Elphaba, Glinda, Fiyero, I don't remember if Nessa Rose is not there. They go to this place called the Philosophy Club, and it is a crazy place where there is a dwarf that pulls a tiger and something else on stage for like an orgy sex show. Like, that's kind of shit that goes on in this book. And the main themes of the book are very much political, which I said they kind of still are in the play as well. But it's also kind of religious too. Also, in the clock, I hinted to this a little bit. In the book, the clock of the Time Dragon is this traveling clock that goes places. And the clock has a puppet show that goes on that is very sexual in nature, based on people in the crowd there. Like, it's a magic clock, and it's like it generates this. The example it gives in the beginning is clocks in the square. The dragon on the clock motions to a widow and her daughter in the crowd. Then the dragon's wing unveils this puppet show, and there is a puppet that has 2 sets of male genitalia and has a threesome with these puppets of the widow and her daughter. And it causes the guy she was seeing, to be like attacked and then the daughter runs away in real life. Like, it's like this stuff it's insane. And it's nuts. This book is crazy. There's some stuff they could pull from it in the musical, but everything's just so out there and so different in tone than the musical. I think they're better off either pulling stuff from Wizard of Oz or just kind of building their own and things that fit in the world of the musical. It's nuts. It's crazy. I have gone longer on this than I intended to, but I'm gonna cap it there. Tell us below in your thoughts on Wicked, the news on the movie, where we're gonna be getting 2 movies out of it. What are some things you would like to see? What are some concerns you have? Have you seen Wicked live? Have you just listened to the soundtrack? Do you have no idea what the fuck Wicked is, and I just spoiled all of it for you, or you didn't listen to any of it? Comment below, like, subscribe, follow us. It helps us out a lot. If you know anyone that you think would like this podcast, or even people that are like, I don't know, but maybe it'll help them, tell them about us. Have them subscribe. It helps us. The more people that see us, the more numbers we do, the more encouraging it is for us. We want to keep making more of this to you. We're having fun with it. Our lives have been crazy. We want to get to where we can release things more frequently than once a month. We've just been hit back to back with one of us is sick. Both jobs are crazy right now. Other stuff is just insane. So we're at least still going to be giving you one a month. We're hoping to get to where we can do one every couple weeks. Bear with us. Stay tuned. Our Instagram is where we post the most frequent updates. We have a Twitter page. We have a Facebook page too. Stay tuned to those. Instagram, most common updates. Subscribe to the YouTube. That's the most fun place to enjoy these things. I think the visual adds some to it. I spend some time on the editing, try to throw in fun tidbits for you. Go subscribe. Follow us on the podcast too, though. Even if you watch on the YouTube, just go subscribe to the podcast. The numbers help us. It encourages us. We love seeing you guys there. This is going to be a YouTube exclusive, though. So, glad you're watching it. Hope you enjoyed it. And don't forget to go down once more.